Verse number 90, the unreal does not conceal what exists. Such is the experience. What exists is. In this way, at every step, this is enveloped by existence. Therefore, body and such effects are existence through and through. Commentary. In the second verse of the 100 verses of self-instruction, Narayana Guru listed the important elements of our world experience. He began with the psychic dynamics, or what is called the inner organ, consisting of the questioning mind, the recollection of memory, the act of judgment, and the experience of affectivity. The inner organ relates itself with several instruments of perception and action. The mind is in relation with the physical senses, like the eye and ear. The will is in relation with the hands and legs, or whatever has to operate. The judging faculty is in relation with the data brought to it from the external world, and so on. When the relationships of the senses of perception and the organs of action are well established with the inner system, the body consciousness becomes a well-organized entity. This allows us to have a comprehensive idea of our personality. When the inner organ, the senses, and the totality of the person are taken as a whole, it is called Kalebaram. Although Kalebaram is sometimes translated as body, it is more than that. It should be understood in the special sense of the four aspects of the psychic dynamics, the senses, both of perception and action, and the personal identity with the body, all taken together. This makes one unit which belongs to the knower. That knower stands in relationship to what is known, called lokam. Lokam is the whole field of the physical and psychic entities, coming within the ambit of our conscious and unconscious experience. In the second verse, we were told that all these are modifications of the one primordial substance. The primordial substance was equated with a self-luminous entity, likened to a sun shining in the beyond, or the absolute. Thus, the substantial reality of everything manifested here was pointed out in verse 2. Now we have come to verse 90. We are once again brought to have a look at the several bodies that constitute this world. We are first told we have aniritam, a wrong understanding of functional reality. When functional reality or rhythm is understood improperly, it is anritam. For instance, when a child is hungry and it cries, its mother may find it inconvenient to nurse it. Nowadays, she may put a plastic nipple in its mouth. The child takes it for a breast, so it sucks. The child expects the false nipple to function like its mother's breast, but it is plastic, and no milk comes out of it. For a while, because of the visceral pleasure of the lips, it goes on sucking. But when its stomach doesn't get filled, it starts crying again. It feels, I don't want this thing. Give me real milk. Nurse me. That protest comes from within, rejects the falsification of the rhythm. In fact, we do this kind of thing to ourselves. Nature does it to us. Society does it to us. It is happening on many levels. There are many kinds of make-believe between people. There is a lot of scope for anritam. The Guru says anritam can never satisfy you because truth will soon demand functional reality, and that whenever functional reality is belied, the actual situation will expose it. If a man convinces you he is a very good plumber, but then he doesn't know how to fix something in your bathroom, it proves his claims are false. When what he says meets the acid test of functional reality, he has to confess he can't do it. The simple things in life can show this up very clearly. For instance, if you want to prepare a meal, you should know how to cook. Otherwise, the result will not be edible. This is a very important lesson to learn if we get confused in situations in our daily life, like our interpersonal relations. It is because we are not paying heed to functional reality. This is different than abstracting the total truth in a situation. That also has a great value. But we live every day in the manifest aspect rather than the unmanifest. So, for that, we need not the philosopher's truth, but common sense truths, which are valuable for everyday situations. Before one gets the highest realization, one should know how to listen to one's own common sense. It is at the risk of common sense that most people seek spirituality, and this heads them towards trouble. Everything has an innate limitation as well as enormous potentials. Sand cannot hold water, but sand can be melted and fused into transparent glass, which can hold water. If you look at a handful of sand and a glass bottle, you would never imagine there could be such a transformation. Enormous possibilities are lying concealed in the sand. But however much you try, you cannot get milk from sand, except in fairy tales. This is the field where charlatans thrive. When you abandon rhythm, functional reality, they all rush in. We shall help you. Now you have given up your common sense. Very good. That's an important requirement of our path. From here onwards, we will be best friends. This kind of spirituality is not safe. I am reminded of a time when about 30 Australians were sent by their Australian guru to study with me at the Varkala Gurukula. Someone wrote back to their guru about something they feared might happen. So she sent a cable, "Return sooner than you can come." One of them immediately brought it and showed it to me. He said they wanted to leave immediately. I said, to go to Australia, there is no way other than flying. You have to get tickets first. India is not like Australia, where you can just walk into an airport and buy a ticket. Even if you buy a ticket a month early, they will say you are on the waiting list. It's 5 in the afternoon. By the time you pack, it will be 7. The next plane from here is tomorrow at 1 p.m. You can all go if you want tomorrow morning. Why don't you take rest now? Then their chief took them all aside and said, "This man is against our guru. Our guru says return sooner than you can, and he doesn't allow us to go sooner than we can." He came to me and asked, "If you got such a cable from your guru, would you wait like that?" I said, "My guru is on the next hill. You can find out from him." So they all packed everything, took their packs, and went to see Natarajaguru. He was already asleep when they reached his hut, so they just sat there. Around 1 a.m., Guru woke up, hearing voices outside. He thought they were bandits. He turned on the light and shouted, "What is this? What's going on?" Then they told him why they were there. He said, "I really appreciate your great loyalty to your guru. It touches me very deeply. I have no right to correct your guru. You have so much faith. You should act upon her wishes. You want to go now, but even if you leave now, the plane will take off only at 1 tomorrow afternoon. Why should you sit so long at the airport? Why don't you sleep?" Then he added, "I'll give you one piece of advice, because I am also a guru. With all your spiritual intuition and loyalty, also keep your common sense. it will be very handy in your daily life. This plea for common sense leads us to the world of ontologic truth. What is ontological truth? There is a distinction to be made between empirical truth and ontological truth. Empirical means I can see something here and now with my own eyes, and I am convinced of its existence. The ontologic is one step beyond the empirical, through a kind of reduction. There you arrive at the reality not only of one thing here and now, but of all things of the same class and the same order. A pair of prescription glasses cannot be passed on from one person to another because they are made according to the requirements of a particular person's eyes. There is an inner relationship, a pairing, a one-to-one correspondence between the lens and that person's vision. This is true because of a law governing real things, a law that governs everything we can experience through our senses, understand with our intellect, and direct with our common sense. This inner structure of the psychophysical world gives us a foundation of truth on which we live our daily life. This intrinsic structural unity is the ontologic reality. It is the ontologic reality of things that is exposed to you whenever you make an error at the functional level in any field, whether spiritual, social, or material. In all of these is an inner structural reality that is well complemented by a functional reality. The structure and the function are two sides of the same coin. This is why a functional disturbance resonates instantly with the structural basis. If a pianist plays a certain key and it makes a jarring note, he stops. He knows the strings need to be tuned. When a piano is properly tuned, it makes the same kinds of tones in the same arrangement as all other pianos. So someone with the necessary skill comes, listens, and corrects the notes. Then the pianist listens and says, "Right, exactly right, it's there." This is where the ontologic reality is touched. We can all see the piano with our eyes. That's the empirical reality. But we have to go one step further to make it fit the inner law and operate properly. Cosmologically and psychologically, there are inner laws operating, and they are interlinked to govern the inner structure of everything. We need to be very clear in our minds about this. Rhythm and Anritam are our guidelines here. There is a science of Anritam. Even malfunctions adhere to certain laws. If this were not true, a mechanic would not be able to repair a car. A plumber couldn't fix the pipes, and a teacher wouldn't be able to correct anyone's grammar. Diseases are all Anritams, malfunctions of the body. All the materia medica, all the pathological sciences deal with aspects of Anritam. But there is nonetheless scope for science in them, since even with a mistake, you can see how it takes a certain inevitable course and brings a predictable wrong result. And by just examining a wrong result, you can see what kind of mistake was made to arrive at it. So there is rhythm working within the Anritam. It is a universal law which guides you when it functions as well as when it malfunctions. In our meditations or spiritual experiences, we should also make a search for the ontologic verity of the truth of what we experience. The seer's advice is, if you have an experience and it is brilliant and very enjoyable, but no one else has experienced it, it is hard to know whether you are going kooky or it is a real experience until you land in some terrible place. Suppose something happens and you speak of it with your personal teacher. He or she might ask, "Did you do such and such a thing? And did you get this kind of experience? Was it followed by this? And then came this?" If you say yes, then they might say, "Have no fear. That's exactly how it happens. To me, it was also like that." At least now there are two people who have shared the same kind of experience. One thing then is sure: if the disciple is mad, the guru is having the same kind of madness. Or perhaps your teacher picks up a book and says, "This work was traditionally followed by both teachers and disciples, and according to Sutra 37, you will first experience this, then this, then this." For at least 2000 years, people have been following this and having the same experience you have. Then you can feel you are very safe. You have a living example in your teacher and also a tradition which supports it. They come in a straight line down to you, so it is almost certain to be a true experience. When you don't have this kind of authentic reference point to see where you stand, you can be misled. You may be a very blessed person, experiencing something no one ever has before. It might be wonderful, but it cannot be vouchsafed. If you want to take it at your own risk, fine, but mostly it can go the wrong way. As Narayana Guru says, Amritam will not be able to conceal truth for long. Such is our actual experience. Then the Guru says, Sad Asti. Sat means it exists. Asti means I know it is. In all experiences there is a cognition. When you perceive something, it is immediately followed by the meaning of what you have cognized. You say, "This is such and such a thing." That is called Asti, it is. How do you know it is that? Because you are fully aware of the properties that go along with such an experience. Then you are affected by the experience. Priyam. The Guru is going to speak of Priyam in the coming verses. But for now he is speaking of Asti, the existential aspect. He says, Sad Asti, this is. Then he says, Anupadam, your life is like a march to your goal. In that progressive march you proceed step by step. A step is called Padam. Anu means along with. Along with each step there is a confirmation of truth. Each time you step, the good earth supports you, as if it were saying, walk on me, I am stable, I'll support you wherever you need to go. If there were an obstruction, you wouldn't be able to walk. A kind of confirmation is always coming from the path to the pada, from the path to your foot. You turn on the tap in the kitchen, water comes, Asti. You look for a cup, it is there. You fill it. Everything you do goes on confirming that you are doing the right thing. You drink, it quenches your thirst, Asti again. Where is there to go wrong unless you are insane? It's not an imaginary thing. This truth is not anything alien. It lives within you. It gives confirmation, Anupadam, with every step. Therefore, Narayana Guru says, at every step, your experience is enveloped by truth. The first mantra of the Ishavasya Upanishad says, Wherever you turn, whatever you see, when it is all enveloped with God, then move free, not until then. The word for enveloping, avasyam, is used in a very special sense. Narayana Guru uses avrittam in this verse. The meaning is the same, enveloped by God or enveloped by truth. When the whole function is endorsed as truthful, and you do not come across any snag, any hitch, then you can say you are living a truthful life. There is no obstruction anywhere. Everything is going smoothly. It's a gentle, harmonious flow. When malfunctions come, the avritam, the enveloping aspect, is destroyed. Something comes in between to disrupt it. But when you do experience the confirmation of it from moment to moment and step by step, where is it coming from? On one side is the seer, and on the other is its counterpart, the seen. Their complementarity makes an experience valid. When I confirm an apple is an apple, I am also confirming that I am a proper seer of the apple. The truth of an experience lies half in what is presented and half in the experiencer. It is not a one-sided truth. The truth belongs simultaneously to what you visualize and to who you are. Both are part of a single reality called the Self that envelopes everything. The Guru next uses the word sadghanam, meaning it is truth through and through. It is existence through and substance through and through. The same word is also used in the second verse to describe the one supernal sun shining in the firmament beyond, whose light transforms into all this. The ultimate we search for and the immediate we live in are united. They are not two. Here and now we are living in the Absolute. That's why Sir Arthur Eddington said that the Absolute could be defined as a relative, which is always the same, no matter what it is relative to. When there is such a degree of dependability, the relative becomes the Absolute. We see two in relation to one, three in relation to two and one, and so on. The quantitative aspect of these integers doesn't change simply because they are relational. 1 and 2 always make 3. 3 and 2 always make 5. They are consistent, constant. The mathematical constancy we see operating functionally shows it to be truth through and through. This verse is so closely related to verse 2. It is well to recall it to mind. The inner organ, the senses, the body, the many worlds known by direct perception, everything when contemplated, is the glorious embodiment of the sun that shines in the sky beyond. This should be known through relentless search. What is experienced as the psychic dynamics, the senses, the body, and the very many worlds of interest are all modifications of the light of the one supreme sun of knowledge, which shines in the firmament of the Absolute. This we should know by cogitation combined with proper discernment. Now in the 90th verse, Narayana Guru brings us back. We have not gone anywhere. We are still remaining in this solid world, where things have their thingness and their meaning. This verse is given for stabilization, so you won't just take off. In the next 5 or 6 verses, there will be another critical focusing on the verity of things here. You may lose your ground if you are not once again reminded to hold on to your common sense. This is just like telling a child to hold on tight. while they are getting on a merry-go-round. The Guru says to hold on tight to the functional reality you know through your common sense until you come to the other end. This is the compassion of the Guru. Instead of making a fanfare of euphoria, he asks us to sit firm. There is a Malayalam proverb which says, "Sit firmly before you stretch your legs." If you suddenly stretch your legs while standing up, you will fall with a bang. It is very bad for your buttocks. The 90th verse is chosen so you all will sit firmly on solid facts. The 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita serves the same purpose as the 90th verse of Atmopadesh Satakam. In the Gita, an overwhelming mystical experience is presented in very raw and intense form in the 11th chapter. In these 100 verses, we have also encountered such mystical experiences as the whole sky blazing with the fire of the highest form of mystical harmony, in which all names and forms disappear, or wisdom coming like 1,000 suns rising all at once. The same thing happens to Arjuna in the Gita. Then in the 12th chapter, Krishna asks him, "Are you convinced of all these things now?" "Yes." "Great. Turn your mind to that and hold on to it with great reverence." The 13th and 14th chapters, along with the 16th and 17th, are a thoroughgoing scrutiny of Arjuna's inner traits. They are a kind of pathological analysis of Arjuna's personality after the big shake-up. But the 15th chapter is totally different from those surrounding it. It harkens back to the 11th chapter, re-establishing what occurred there on a proper foundation of fundamental philosophy. The cosmological, theological, and psychological aspects of the mystical experience are all placed in context. Both the epistemology and the ontology of the philosophy are well laid out, so you are not left suspended in the mid-air of your mystical fervor. You can cool down and begin to comprehend what took place. Before he leads us to the ultimate peace at the end of the work, Narayana Guru once again reminds us that God did not make a mistake in creating this world. God was justified in giving you a skeletal system, an anatomy, which is so structured that when you want to raise your hand, you can, or when you want to make a fist, you can, or when you want to point your finger, nothing is simpler. It is a perfect arrangement with no mistakes. So don't say the physical world is superficial. There's nothing superficial about it. It's even a great thing that you can close your eyelids. Just the tiniest movement and the whole world disappears. Open your eyes and the world comes back. What a great wonder. Blinking is the simplest reflex action in the body. From the far-off stars to the grass beneath your feet, it all disappears and returns with a snap. What could be more wonderful than that? It belongs to the world called empirical, and the truth of it belongs to the ontologic world. Thus it is stabilized. Geoffrey Hodgson of the Theosophists has published a beautiful book of his African tour, with paintings of water nymphs, tree spirits, and all kinds of little fairies coming out of flowers. He does not say he imagined them. He says, "I see them just as I see you." He painted them all, and the pictures show them sitting there, posing properly for him to paint them. If you put Hodgson on one side and a materialist like B.F. Skinner on the other, a line connecting them will cover the whole world of conceptualization. If you just hang on to Hodgson, you will be in a beautiful world, but there won't be any stable ground for you to walk on. If you are a partisan of Skinner, everything is physically measurable, countable, and calculable. But you cannot calculate, count, and get a measure of love for someone, or quantify a good feeling. So you need to know how to synchronize both these attitudes into a holistic approach. That will bring you a sound philosophy, sound mysticism, sound spirituality, and a whole life. And the free translation of verse 90 is, "The unreal cannot conceal the real. This is our experience. Existence asserts itself at every step, producing all effects, such as the body."